Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Borden, and I'm Corporate Vice President of Worldwide Financial Services here at Microsoft. Thank you for joining me for this next episode of my series, The Borden Line. If you're just tuning in, my goal for this series is to open a line of conversation with thought leaders and innovators to discuss the latest trends, hot topics, insights, and solutions across the financial services industry. I'm excited to be joining you today from New York City for Microsoft's 50th anniversary celebration. As part of the festivities, I had the honor of ringing the opening bell at NASDAQ this morning with my colleague, Shelley Bransten. And while she's in New York today, I also thought it would be great to have her join me on this episode of this podcast. Shelley is Microsoft's Corporate Vice President for Global Industry Solutions and is an amazing leader and someone I'm honored to call friend. All right, let's get started with Shelley. Huge welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. So look, exciting times.
Yeah.
You and I were, 2.5 blocks away, opening up the NASDAQ.
Right?
Was that amazing for 50 years? So tell me what's going through your head.
I mean, I'm on a high. It was just so fun. I've done a lot of things in my life and my career, but nothing like that. Just to mark 50 years of this incredible company and the energy of our teams there, the energy of the NASDAQ and what it means for all of us as employees around the world.
Yeah, it doesn't really hit you. But when you walked in the hall and you saw the pictures of Bill Gates and Paul Allen in the early days, and then you and I were at the Leadership Summit this week with Satya and the leadership team, we actually got a chance to see Bill. Yeah. And to actually represent Microsoft at this point in time in its history is incredible.
It was so amazing to me, listening to your point, listening to Bill and sort of the spark of the idea of Microsoft and, kind of dropping out of college and trying to find hardware where he could. And yet he said to all of us, he thinks this is the most exciting time of technology ever. So it was it was incredible to hear that in the history.
Yeah, it really was. And so we got to recognize our customers and partners today for all the incredible things that have been done around the democratization of technology around the world with Microsoft and our partners. I had the chance to acknowledge Adina, President and CEO of the NASDAQ, which was amazing. And she was so excited to be representing, saying that Microsoft actually helped NASDAQ be what it is today. And so there's a lot of talk about what we've done today with our technology, but there's a lot of looking forward with our technology as well. And so as a leader of the retail industry for Microsoft all up, you're obviously seeing a lot of things from a consumer perspective. So I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts around the journey with Microsoft and where we are today on the cutting edge with AI.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, as Satya always reminds us, we're at a consequential company at a consequential time. And I mean, I'm sure you feel this way about the financial services industry as well. I don't think there's a more important time to be thinking about how technology is going to transform retail, telco, energy, resources, manufacturing. I mean, they have all, I think part of my origin story of even moving from retail to technology was seeing what Amazon was doing to retail. Mm-hmm. And, how could I help on some sort of platform to other customers make that transition to, more personalized, more digitized shopping experience. But today, with technology and with AI, I mean, those options are limitless. Mm-hmm. So that's what gets me very excited. And there's probably a handful of scenarios that I would say we're going to see transform the most. Mm-hmm. But it's helping our customers transform that gets me excited.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that. Yeah. Because with the web and where Amazon took retail, which changed the game for everybody. Yeah. But the industry's caught up using tech. So I know that's been a big part of your strategy. But tell me about the conversations you're having with leaders in the retail industry.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We used to say, actually, even during the pandemic, we used to say that COVID-19 was the chief innovation officer for retail, because it was sort of that last push through where retailers knew they completely had to digitize their operations. Most of them had websites, but they hadn't really created those, 2-day shipping promises, personalized experiences, et cetera. Fast forward to where the industry is today, and of course where Microsoft is today. I mean, we now have customers, just banging on our door saying, what are the use cases that matter? How quickly can we go? Transforming their supply chains, transforming the e-commerce experience, transforming how the frontline worker works in retail. So for us, it's actually the discipline is more about having our customers pick a few use cases that matter, that will scale and drive business value versus chasing the shiny objects of what our technology can bring. I don't know, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing the same things, and look, and we'll bring together these two industries, financial services and retail, but it's been interesting, right? 12 months ago, it was, hey, what's this thing called AI, and does it really work? And
totally.
What does this mean? And now, the financial services industry, it's not a matter of how we're going to do it. It's when and how fast we move.
Yes.
So it's creating a lot of energy and excitement around what is that consumer experience and what can financial services bring to commerce.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to talk to you a little bit more, how retailers are thinking about that commerce and that point of truth when you actually have to exchange dollars and money. What's the conversation around that with AI?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, first of all, like just giving a nod that here we are in New York City, and it's both the heart of the financial institutions as well as retail. Like this is where the fashion industry really started in America, and obviously with NASDAQ here.
Speaking of fashion, because we didn't open it with our Microsoft shirts, and we got to wear these on the NASDAQ, and we got the president and CEO of NASDAQ, Adina Friedman, to wear her shirt. So would you call this a fashion statement?
Absolutely. I don't know that my team would, but I would. If you think about in the early days of what Amazon did, back to your question, it was really what the first major innovation was making checkout easy. Because checkout had always been a really clunky experience on every single retailer's website. And so at the intersection that's a payments question, right? And having that one-click checkout.
That one-click checkout. They actually
it was literally one-click checkout and then 2-day delivery.
Okay.
And those were the things. It wasn't even, like, if you talk to a major retailer, it wasn't how the website was merchandised. In fact, many retailers poo-pooed it because they thought it was, it was almost like it felt like a warehouse. It was hard to find things. But they made getting your stuff so you didn't have to go find your credit card and all that stuff. And then the traceability so easy. It was really a financial services and a payments proposition that really started to pull through. And then, of course, because of that, the e-commerce explosion that they drove, that's how they built Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
Good and bad for us, but so I think sort of the intersection between retail and financial services, and particularly on the payment side, is so critical. And even today, I'm getting ready to go to a conference for a major payments company because they have all this incredible
starts with a P and ends with an
and it's your PayPal. And it's really they want to figure out, they have this incredible shopper insights, right? About what people are buying, how frequently they're buying them, where they're sending purchases. That's financial services payments data that appended to a retailer strategy is gold.
Yeah, and on the financial services side, it's all about the modernization of their ability to offer payments and acquiring services.
Yep.
So whether that's through the banks or the acquirers. And obviously the rails, Visa, MasterCard, American Express are all figuring out ways to think about data and AI and how to bring those together. And so we're obviously in the middle of that, and you and I have to even partner more closely.
Get to partner
as well, which is cool. We've talked a little bit about the future, but I want to go back a little bit.
Sure.
Because you made some remarks in your opening remarks today about your first PC.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. What was that like when you actually got your hands on that, and what did it feel like?
It really did. I mean, I don't know what it was like for you, sort of your first desk job. I mean, I answered phones, so let's be clear. But it felt like I was a grown-up. And it felt like I had entered a whole, just a new world of getting my coffee in the morning and sitting down at a PC. I took that responsibility and that accountability really seriously, but it did feel like a ticket to a whole new world when I got that personal computer. Yeah,
and I started my career at IBM, so I'm an old guy. So we started on it was pre-PCs as they were coming out.
Okay.
PCs were getting popular, and then IBM was mainframe, but PCs were big, and we had to get into that business. And at the time, Microsoft was kind of, starting to dominate. And it's funny, because when I was at IBM, enemy was Microsoft. So I could not imagine myself when I was at IBM actually thinking about working for Microsoft. And here I am, 5.5 years in.
Right.
And you're one of the reasons why I'm here.
Oh, well, lucky us.
But tell me, how did you get to Microsoft?
It's kind of random, actually. As we talked about, I spent a lot of time in retail. I had a short but good stint at another technology company, and I was giving a presentation here in New York City at NRF. And here's a little life lesson for anybody who's watching. I mean, I got kind of a random outreach on LinkedIn from a recruiter who said they were looking for a new head of retail. And I'm not always good, but I try to be fairly responsive. It's something I kind of learned early, then one thing led to another. And about like a month later, I was up in Seattle interviewing. They wanted to do, for you, we'll get to you later, but they wanted to do sort of a reboot of the industry strategy, which had been done a couple times already at Microsoft. So that was sort of my biggest question, was like, are they really serious about, bringing deep industry people into the company? But as soon as I got up there and I started talking to the leaders, about their commitment to transforming these industries and being a partner to these industries, I felt something different. And, I sort of agonized over the decision, but I have to say it'll be 7 years in September. And since I've gotten here, there's been some long days, but I've never looked back.
No, you haven't. And then I got one of those emails too, LinkedIn emails.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
It was LinkedIn,
Okay.
And I, like you, I was like, oh, this is interesting, and inquired, and then that led me to meeting Deb Cup, getting through the interview process. And then I'll never forget, I was on a business trip, and I had a scheduled meeting to talk to you. Yeah. And literally, you were, the energy that you brought and the excitement that you brought is what got us there today. And now you and I have helped, I think, Microsoft really stay customer focused in our specific industries around how we're trying to deliver, and deliver with pace and scale.
Yeah.
So
before you even say one more thing, I'm going to interrupt you and say, I was brought in as the closer to bring you in from Deb, who's pretty much a closer. And it was like a don't mess it up, kind of like, we want him. I think you were on a trip and I was traveling through the airport. I can see that seat where I was sitting when you and I had that conversation.
Yeah.
And I could see why the company wanted you so badly. And I think you and I also just made a nice, personal connection.
And here we are, ringing the bell.
Ringing the bell.
Ringing the bell.
Ringing the bell.
Say cheers to the bell.
Change makers.
We do. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me something. What's one of the coolest things that you've kind of seen with a customer use case right now in this AI space?
It's like, which of your children do you love the most? I talked a little bit about how e-commerce was revolutionized. I think we're about to see one of the most seminal shifts in the way e-commerce works that probably our children will not recognize how you and I used to shop, because today when you go to a website, you have to scroll. I'm going to New York to ring the bell. I want to look business appropriate, but not like I'm trying too hard. Like you can't, that's a natural, I'm going to a wedding in Spain and it says seaside chic and I don't know what to wear. That's a natural human thing. You still don't know what to wear. See, this is why you need this. Today, if you had to do that, you'd have to do lots of researching, right? But now, and this, we were doing this with a lot of our luxury customers, but Walmart is doing it for like Super Bowl parties. I'm having a Super Bowl party. I'm an Eagles fan. I have 30 people coming over and I have $80 to spend. And you get a natural response based on what I would call going from scroll-based shopping to goal-based shopping. And so it'll be a huge saver of time. We're already seeing our retailers get, much more personalized, more units per transaction, faster through the checkout. So I think we're going to really see a complete revolution in how commerce happens. And that gets me very excited.
And it gets me excited.
It does. You will know what Seaside Chic is.
I will know what Seaside Chic is.
And what to wear.
And I have to get my customers on the financial services side ready to have their technology to engage into that. So
yeah, definitely.
It's going to be very cool.
Well, it's interesting because as you and I have, a lot of the banks run these large, massive credit card loyalty programs. And they have some of the best consumer data sets in the world. And how you get that leverage, like in the flow of that transaction, is another huge opportunity for collaboration.
Okay, I'm going to change gears on you.
Okay.
So tell me about something that you've learned over the last 5 years around Microsoft's culture and the approach, and obviously what we mean as a growth culture. What has that meant to you in terms of how your leadership style has grown?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. I think if you asked me the two reasons why I joined Microsoft, number one would be the culture. And it was specifically the growth mindset and going from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all. There are no shortage of opportunities when you work at Microsoft to feel like I am, the least intelligent person in the room, I'm not like, trying to be coy or anything like that, but the ability to ask questions and learn and come in every day, especially now as I've picked up these new industries. I mean, I grew up in retail, but, walking into an energy meeting or a manufacturing meeting, I love the culture where I get to just ask really good questions. That has, I think, one of the best gifts we have as a legacy for the next 50 years.
So I want to also ask you a question.
Yeah.
I just, your leadership style and growth is amazing. I think the world of you as a leader. But tell me something when you look back that you would try to do a little bit different, because we always like to talk about things that we try to share and do different with our audience. So tell me something that you would do different that you've learned over the last 5 years at 6 years for you.
There's a lot. I think that's part of being a good leader is reflecting. In fact, a person who sort of does some coaching for me said, and you and I have talked about this as you're an athlete, you're a former athlete, like you talked about, like sort of watching the tapes. Like one of the most important things you can do is reflect on, where you made mistakes. I think that it took me a little while to figure out how industry docked in at Microsoft. We had sort of our, I would say the first phase was really about sort of thought leadership and, going to conferences and writing white papers, which was fabulous. The next phase was really more about consultative selling, and sort of that consultative view. And this phase we've hit more into, like being really connected into the sales rhythm and the industry outcomes within the Microsoft machine, I would say. And it has its challenges. You and I have talked about that, but I would have snapped into the Microsoft machine faster because even like today, when you get the machine underneath you versus, trying to go in a slightly orthogonal direction, there's nothing like how this company executes when you're at scale. And so I probably would have pushed myself and the teams to get there faster.
Yeah, no, I know this. I know the sense, but it's also, I remember, I don't know if you were told when you came in, don't lose your industry customer perspective as you come into the machine.
Definitely.
And so that's something I know I have to work on all the time. What's the balance, right? Because we are there to actually drive hard around the customer value proposition and their perspective.
Yes.
And it's showing up in many ways right around what we do. And you guys have done some amazing things globally with your customers around leading them through the technology and growth. Which has been amazing. Okay. What's the one piece of advice you would give our audience as they think about, operating in this new world of agentic AI capabilities and their approach to it, either as an individual or as a business leader?
Yeah. Can I have two pieces of advice?
Of course.
The first is, no matter what you think, nobody has the answers here. We just had, as Bill referenced, this incredible review with some of the smartest minds who are actually like building the future, and they don't know when asked. So, just feel comfortable being uncomfortable and not knowing. And then the second thing would be just get your hands on it and use it. I think the best way to learn about these capabilities, and by the way, use some of the other technology, like use ours and send a lot of feedback. So, but then also, try all of them and see what works, because I think demystifying it for yourself I learn from my kids.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, one of my younger son just completely applied to college, and he wrote his own essays, but AI engines critiqued him, and that, like, I was like, okay, goodbye to the very expensive tutor that we had,
right.
And so I just think, trying and using and seeing what works and what doesn't, and fine tuning yourself and prompting. I mean, I'm making them both. My kids take prompting classes, So I think those would be uncomfortable not knowing, and then just use the stuff would be my advice.
Yeah, and I can hear you telling your customers that too.
I do. I'm not afraid to get out my phone and just start talking, and they're amazed when they see what these models do.
Yeah. So give me a real life scenario around how you've actually had that advice manifest with one of your customers.
I'm glad you asked it, because I think even as advanced as the technology is, Bill, the most important piece probably is actually the governance and the culture around the technology, because that's where I would imagine you see this in financial services too. That's where I've seen customers, either win or really fall down, because it's like sort of one person or 5 people within a company that are interested in AI. I just got back actually from the AI innovation tour in Japan. And first of all, it's just fascinating to go to a country a year later.
Yeah.
I went from, last year, them sort of, I'm not sure about AI. Are you sure? I think human ingenuity can outrank it, kind of thing, to like, these are all the use cases, and this is how we're driving. This is the impact of it. And it was, I've never seen something flip so quickly. But, in particular, I'm thinking about 7 & I, which many people might not realize. It's 7-Eleven in the U.S., and it's a Japanese company. They're a bank as well as many other things. I think they sell like 60 of these rice balls that are like a staple of Japanese culture every single second. But, they're doing everything from, there's a letter, which means a lot, particularly in Japan, a letter from their chairman to all their employees about the criticality of getting trained. We're doing skilling with them. And then they're doing this AI Skill Fest every single week, opening the technology into their home offices. So I think having that culture of adoption is actually one of the most important things in order to get AI at scale for the business value, because we often forget that AI transformation is business transformation. So when business leaders lead and drive that message throughout their organization, that's where I see customers have a lot of success.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that business leadership has to come top down.
Completely.
With the organization to actually help support the bottom up energy and excitement around it.
Yeah.
And the concern.
Completely.
Right?
Completely. And I think we have to really listen to the concern side piece. I mean, we talk a lot about sort of our responsible AI principles and how we'll share ours with our customers. But you have to both have the governance and the mandate and the excitement, and then also really validate that, there are ways in which the responsible AI conversation is really important.
No, it's super important. And we have so much to look forward to.
Yeah.
We talked about in the space. And so, Shelley, I want to thank you again, and toast you for joining us.
It was so fun.
For our celebration. It was such an awesome day, and it was a historic day for us to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So really, thank you for joining me. So again, Shelley's perspectives were outstanding. I want to thank her for her insights and her learnings today that she shared with us. And I want to thank all of you out there for tuning in for this episode of the Borden Line. I look forward to my next conversation in the series, and hope you'll come back and join me. Please, please, please keep the input coming on topics you'd like to hear in the future. Thanks, everyone.